Welcome to Behind the Numbers, podcast that keeps you up to date with football within the hobby. This week, I'm going to update you on contenders and the pricing of whacks and singles out of the gate. I'll give you my 5 quarterbacks that didn't make the playoffs to watch in the hobby. We'll catch up on conference championship performances and what players are now enjoying a playoff bump in their hobby prices. Give you my 5 takeaways from the weekend, 3 guys I'm targeting in breaks, and preview the Super Bowl matchup. Now, it's time for the show. Welcome to Behind the Numbers. Thanks for being with me this week on the conference championship recap week. Hope everybody's doing well and happy and healthy. Doing all right on our end here. Got to 9 degrees weather. Definitely Canada cold has turned down on us. And as I mentioned last show, wife broke her ankle, so definitely trying to pick up that slack, which is pretty difficult shoes to fill. But so far, kids are alive and eating, so we're keeping everything up to speed so far. But one thing I want to start the show off with, next week, plan on having Shani on the show. I haven't had him on for a while, and we definitely want to just open up a Q&A to the show. So we'd love to hear your questions, anything hobby related, just kind of hobby chat, more hobby focused. So if you have any questions hobby-wise you want us to answer, look into, give our opinions, or just to start a discussion, please put it in the comments, right on the bottom there for the video, or even on you can give me on Twitter at numbers_behind as well, and just submit your question. But would love your feedback. Give us some material to go with to give you guys some answers. But with that being said, I thought we'd move into today's show, starting with contenders, just getting into that product. I mean, I watched a couple breaks. I would say overall underwhelming. It's underwhelming because it's just a difficult product to hit. It's very, all out of the base is worth nothing. Most of the autos are huge in terms of the big guys. So I have some prices for you. But overall, I still like the ticket look, as I mentioned last show, but I just don't. It just seems like a really hard product to really put your money into, especially at the prices it's going for. It's a lot of misses. So it's hard when you don't have the base to fall back on, or you don't have inserts or any chases besides the autos. So overall, still the autos that do come out, the cracked ices, they're super cool, just extremely hard hits, and that's why they're so expensive. So in terms of the product, just kind of some prices for you in terms of the wax. The first off the line is going for $900 for the hobby box, the regular hobby box for $650, blasters $35, and mega $65. It's a really bad retail product in my mind, because again, if the autos are such a big chase, the retail is not going to provide those as much as the hobby with the guaranteed. So the retail is very difficult. Obviously still some hits on there, but most of them being sticker autos, but you still have a shot. Some notable sales of singles: Burrow ticket auto out of 10, 2,200. Herbert 6 out of 10 green ticket sticker auto was 1,900. 2 of those already been sold. I don't know if it's a repeat sale or what was going on with that, but it was a sticker auto, which I thought was a little bit surprising to see it close to 2K with our sticker auto. 2 is out of 10, same kind of card. The auto sticker was 1,600, pretty high for 2 of there. Jordan Love playoff ticket, 14 out of 49, 1,300. That's on card. Lamb cracked ice, 600 out of 22, and Judy cracked ice, 725. Interesting to see Judy sell for a little bit more, but those cards are really cool. On card cracked ice, very low numbered. Again, when you get the on card autos from there, they're beautiful. They're great cards, very expensive in terms of buying them singles. So you do kind of have that internal dilemma of, am I just going to throw a couple of breaks and hope for the best, or am I going to save up and buy a single? It just seems very hard to make your money on the breaks, or if you buy a single box when it comes to this product. So overall, like I said, very high-end hits, but it's long shots, definitely the long shots with this product. But it is the auto to own. It is the auto that you'd want in terms of rookie auto, being on card. So any comments on contenders we could talk about next week as well with Shani? Make sure to put it in the comments again. Kind of shift into top QBs that didn't make the playoffs that I'm watching for the offseason and going forward. I think when it comes to these guys, it's not necessarily that I'm buying. It's more I'm just really interested in what they're going to do in terms of free agency, trades, value, coming back from injury, all of those different angles I'm looking at. And so just starting with Kyler Murray, obviously he was really close to getting Arizona back to the playoffs. They fell short. He got injured. They just kind of stalled at the end, and the Rams and Seattle took over that division. And I'm just watching Kyler. I just need to see, is that just a 1 year getting nicked thing, or with his size and his the way he plays, is this going to be a constant thing for him? Because that is a concern. If he's injured, he's not going to be able to get that top value that he was kind of showing the possibility of having, and his cards were really high. They are down right now, but I still think that he's a phenomenal talent. But I'm really watching to see how he bounces back from that kind of bad ending. Are they going to come back, or are they going to slip back down, kind of just be that third, maybe second best team in that division? This is a weird one, and I don't know if you guys will be interested, but Sam Darnold. I'm watching Sam Darnold. He still has the pedigree in terms of the draft position. He hasn't done anything. He's been in a terrible situation, but he's getting a new regime, getting a new coaching staff. And what I'm watching is if the Jets decide to pass on Justin Fields at 2 and give Darnold one more go, they draft an offensive tackle, or they trade down and try to get pieces around him, I'm going to be interested in that, because even if he doesn't succeed, we saw what happened with Haskins in this offseason, where Haskins got a bump just because he was a starter for Washington. Well, if Darnold just is for sure going to be the starter, he's going to get a bump on his 144 for his Prism base. And I didn't mention Kyler's 392 for his Prism base rookie for PS10s. So, I mean, 144 is a low risk for a quarterback at this point. Like we saw Haskins hit 300, I believe, or 250 for, I don't believe it was 345 or 350 for his silver at the time. But the point is he hadn't shown anything. He looked really weak, and we saw how that ended for him. So I'm watching Darnold because I think I do have a couple of his base rookie cards. I think he's a guy that could get a nice little bump just being named the starter. And then at that point, you decide, are you going to see if that talent's actually there and it's going to come out, or just dump? So Darnold's definitely somebody I'm watching. Joe Burrow, I'm watching him again because right now his prices are still holding, as I really thought they'd be lower. So I'm really just watching him to see if they will start to drop as we start not to hear much about him and his recovery, and or if right when the gets close to training camp, if he's not ready, of course he's not, and just seeing if people start to sell a little bit more then, and see if the prices start to dip. So I'm definitely watching Burrow in the offseason and as we get closer to training camp. Dak Prescott, obviously a big name, huge start to the year. Obviously the broken ankle was into the season. Still has the contract stuff with the Cowboys in the air right now. Just really interested to see how that plays out and seeing where his prices go as we approach the season in terms of his recovery. If it all's well and he's fully recovered and Dallas signs him, just kind of interesting to see if those start to get rise a little bit in terms of getting ready for them to come back and hopefully be contending for that division that's still wide open relatively. So definitely watching him. So sorry, the Burrow Mosaic PSA 10's 270 right now, and Dak's 675 for his silver. And the other one, there's been a lot of rumors around Deshaun Watson being in Houston, wanting out, demanding trade, not wanting to be a part of that organization anymore. So I'm definitely watching Deshaun. I'm seeing his stuff being sold a little bit more and more in terms of rooms and people lining his cards. But I just really interested to see if he goes to a really good situation, if he gets a nice bump from the trade. So I'm definitely watching Deshaun Watson going forward. So yeah, again, in the comments, if you want to leave someone you're watching that I didn't mention, please put them in the comments. I aimed for guys that did not make the playoffs, so you can shoot for that. Couple playoff guys, just in terms of our playoff rookie reports, getting smaller and smaller each week, obviously with the less of teams being available. AJ Dillon for the Packers, 3 for 17 and 1 catch for 13, not much. And then Clyde Soler in his first game back had 6 for 7 and 1 touchdown. So he got 1 touchdown, but not a lot of statistical output there. So my 5 takeaways from the championship round, Brady does it again. First year away from New England, finds a way to get the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to the Super Bowl. And it's just remarkable. And I've thought about this a lot in terms of, we do a lot of, I don't want to say excuses, but we do a lot of Dan Marino didn't win the Super Bowl, but still one of the better quarterbacks of all time in some people's opinion. You have, Tony Romo, the Jim Kelly's. I think Jim Kelly's not quite in that realm, but when it comes down to it, what I've kind of learned from this is that Tom Brady went from New England to, everybody said it was just a system, he had everything in place, to a brand new situation, who had some talent, but this team was 7-9 the year before, and they took him to the Super Bowl. So to me, it almost kind of pushes back on those guys like Phillip Rivers that haven't got there, that, have had teams around them and just couldn't get there. But even though they have the stats, they just couldn't get it done. And obviously a lot of things have to fall into place, but for some reason, Tom Brady gets it to fall into place a lot more than others. Seen the stat that a lot of you may have saw on Twitter with, Steph Curry's 43% from three-pointer, one of the best three-point shooters in the league, but there's a better chance that Brady's going to make a Super Bowl. He's at a 45% of the time he's in the Super Bowl every year. So just remarkable him to go to his 10th Super Bowl. And even just getting here is huge. And if he finds a way to win this, we'll talk about this in a little bit. What's that going to mean in the hobby? There's a really big hobby matchup I'm going to talk about here in our takeaway for the 5th one. So yeah, I just can't believe that Tampa Bay, I really thought Green Bay would get them. But it just didn't work out. We'll get to that as well. With that, I want to pose a question in terms of the, we just went over that. The one thing I do want to think about, like, too, if on that note, is even if Brady, like, let's say he doesn't win it, I think he's for sure going to come back, because I think with his, like, if Breeze retires, Brady is slightly behind Breeze in all-time passing, and I think he wants that. So I have a really good feeling that Brady will be back next year, and so we might see another shot at Tampa Bay going that far again, so that he can kind of make sure that he's a top passer in the league when he leaves. But Green Bay, the third take is Green Bay unravels. Difference in the game was Tampa Bay capitalized on turnovers. Tampa Bay was 2 touchdowns on 2 Green Bay turnovers. Brady did throw 3 picks, and Green Bay could only come away with 1 touchdown on those turnovers. Also, the big questionable call by LaFleur at the end there, kicking a field goal when they were down 8 instead of going for a 4th down, trying to get to a tie game. Definitely something that's going to sting. Definitely, I felt like there's mixed emotions on that after the game. So it's definitely a lot of questions for take 4. Take 4 is a lot of questions Green Bay going forward. Rodgers not sure of his future, not sure of their future with Aaron Jones. What's this going to be like with Green Bay? How are things going to wind up here? It just seems like a lot of people in that locker room are unsure of where they're going in terms of direction, with, Love in the wings, which hasn't done anything. AJ Dillon's right behind Jones. So are they trying to turn the page to youth? It'd be very interesting to see how Green Bay, where they go. And with that, there is a lot of moving parts in this offseason for quarterbacks. And with quarterback movement, that's a lot of different hobby values to pay attention to. You have Aaron Rodgers, like we said, he's unsure with Jordan Love. Deshaun Watson, as we already mentioned. Tom Brady, if he doesn't come back, which I like I said, I have a feeling he will. Drew Brees, if he does retire, does the Saints go with Taysom Hill full time? Does that give Taysom Hill a hobby bump? Phillip Rivers is retired, and so is it Jacob Eason? Is he a guy that we're looking for in terms of getting a shot? He's still pretty raw. I'm not sure if they think he's ready or not. If they'll bring another veteran in, that seems like what they might do, but Eason's a guy to watch. Eagles quarterback situation, new coach, new start. Doesn't seem like they're too sold on Hurts. Internal rumblings, they have Wentz. What are they going to do with that situation? Could one of those guys be gone? Like we talked about earlier, Jets' direction in terms of Darnold, drafting Fields and whatnot. Broncos, are they going to stay with Locke another year? He's relatively young, has some hit and misses, had some good games, had some bad games. Raiders, same kind of situation. Those teams are kind of in that mid quarterback stalemate tier. Are they going to stay there? Or are they going to make a move, make something, make a splash? And then Lions want to trade Stafford. It's the kind of latest rumor. And so moving on from there. So, right there, you just listed, almost 10 teams that have moving parts at quarterback or things that could change in terms of the dynamic. And that's big for us. If we get ahead of that game in terms of the hobby, there's a lot of easy gains to be made in terms of people getting bumps and going better situations, or young guys getting put into good situations from the draft. So, and then my 5th takeaway is that with this Super Bowl matchup, it's kind of the dream hobby matchup. And it's Tom Brady versus Patrick Mahomes. So they're top 2 quarterbacks in terms of their rookies in the hobby. And the one thing that I find really interesting on this is that I really think that this is, it's huge for Mahomes. Brady's the GOAT. We know that. But it's huge for Mahomes in the sense that I think that Mahomes is the only guy that can get to a Brady level that we've seen. And I think that if Mahomes wins this one, it'll be a 2nd championship, and he's still just barely 26 or still 25. And so he still has the ability to get those 6 championships that Brady did. Obviously, longevity, there's so much that can change. It's really hard to say that. But to have 2 down by the time you're 25, you're in a good position. Even if you just say he has, let's say, 10 great years left, 10 years, he can win 4 of those possibly and be in the 6th realm, really close to Brady. So, and if he's putting up the numbers that Mahomes is, he's going to be up in the all-time list, no doubt. Obviously, all this is long range. There's so many variables when it comes to that. But if Brady does win this Super Bowl, I really think that pretty much makes him untouchable in terms of anybody, like as of now, anybody that can touch his career. I think Mahomes is the only guy that could do it, and this win is the only way it's going to start in that direction. So that's going to be really interesting because the hobby has them pretty high, pretty close right now. Obviously, Mahomes is a baked-in young champion, phenomenal talent, a lot of projection, and Brady's is where it's at because of what he's done. And so I'm really looking forward to this game in terms of how the hobby's going to react. I think that's going to be a fun thing to watch for sure. So just some 5 playoff bump players. We've talked about a few of these already. Like I said, we're not out of players to talk about. Some guys have been put out, so I still mentioned them as well. Again, Josh Allen still had a great showing. Took the Bills to the AFC Championship game. I thought they'd play a little bit better against KC. Too many field goals. He wasn't as efficient as he has been. Couldn't get the red zone touchdowns that they needed. But still, great run, great year for him. He was in the MVP conversation as well. Really, his cards have taken off. I think he has had a really nice playoff bump. Patrick Mahomes, the scare of the concussion, came back, was kind of his normal self last week. 3 touchdowns and in a position right now, like I said, versus Brady to really give himself even a bigger bump. Travis Kelce, he's just been dominant in the playoffs. He has 3 touchdowns, over 200 yards receiving in the playoffs, and he is a very interesting statistical guy. He's over 30. He's already 32, which is unfortunate because it seems he hasn't played a ton of games. When you look at the all-time tight ends list, he's number 10 right now, and one more solid Kelce will put him up to 5th. But it's funny because he's played less than half the games that Tony Gonzalez has, and he's going to be on a per game basis way better than what Gonzalez had. Not in touchdowns, in touchdowns he's good. Antonio Gates is the touchdowns leader, but Travis Kelce is a very impressive player when it comes to the all-time tight end list. So his cards have definitely risen since our very first show. We talked about his prices being too low. They've definitely caught up. His Topps Chrome is a high card that people are enjoying, like in terms of value. And then I believe it's the Prism. Like his Prism rookie is also doing pretty well, but they've come up way since I want to say it was 100 in the beginning, 120, and they're hitting 400 or 500 now. So just definitely hitting a lot higher than I thought they would get for a tight end. So the hobby has given him some love for his production. Chris Godwin, he's looked great last week, made some big catches for Tampa, and again will he be back with Tampa Bay next year and Brady potentially, or will he move on to a team with maybe a younger quarterback and be actually the number 1 guy? No doubt. So he's definitely gotten a little bit of bump. And then A.J. Dillon, I think he just gets a bump because he just showed a little bit of talent that people hadn't seen, the last couple weeks of the regular season and in the playoffs. Some strong runs, a really tough guy to bring down. And I think that the whole, if Aaron Jones is back, he's the guy. I think that'll give him a nice bump when it comes to one of the rookie running backs for that class. He's been a very cheap guy to get over the last few weeks. So with that being said, we got 3 guys that I'm kind of targeting in breaks in terms of like little mosaic breaks or prism breaks that I find. Just like to jump in those just for fun and just see if, especially when these lower tier guys and pick your teams are really cheap. Like the Jags are super cheap. Laviska Shenault, I've kind of talked about before. That Trevor Lawrence coming in, he's been really talented with all the quarterbacks that the Jags are trying to throw through this week or this year. And his biggest thing in the college is injury. So if he can stay healthy, the talent's kind of always been there. He's been a very a really good vertical threat and a guy that they've tried to get the ball in his hands behind the line of scrimmage too. So he's just a talented receiver, short to long. So I definitely feel like he's a good target for me going forward. Jacob Eason, just the pure speculation of possible being a starter. He had the pedigree. He's one of the top recruits in the country. Went to Georgia. Like I said, had some issues. Went to Washington. Was still really good there. Rocket arm. He has the arm. It's about the reads and understanding the game and putting that all together. But he has the arm talent. So that's always the first thing you kind of have to have. And then the other stuff can develop, but obviously both ways you can be really good. Anticipation and accuracy and still be really successful. But he's got the arm talent. To see what Rick can do with him if they're going to give him a shot. And then Cam Akers, I still think that he's a guy that I'm targeting. If the Rams are really cheap in breaks, not many people are going for the Rams. And I still think that he could be the number 1 back, could be a top 5 fantasy back next year that gives you a lot of value. His silver is only going for about $60. Jacob Eason's Blue Disco at a 79 for Prism's going for $96, and Laviska Shenault Pink Prism for $13, and all his base Prisms are like $2. So really low risk for Shenault. Eason's still commanding a little bit of value, but I think it's interesting to see his price versus Love. Obviously, Love is a first-round pick. Eason was a late second, I think, round pick, but still neither of them done anything, so they haven't played at all. I haven't really heard much about either of them. So it's just really interesting to see how much farther Love is in terms of value versus Eason when they could be similar in terms of talent. Yeah, and then with that being said, the Super Bowl right now is, Kansas City versus Tampa Bay, as we know. It's in Tampa, which is an interesting storyline. And KC's a 3-point favorite as of now, going to that game. I do think that's going to be, like I said, I'm just really excited in terms of the hobby of seeing those two quarterbacks going against each other. We wanted to keep it, again, nice, short, and sweet this week for you guys. I have Shani on next week. Again, in the comments, leave some hobby discussion questions you guys have for us. We'd be happy to get a little Q&A and give you a shout out on the show. Thanks for being with me, and I'll see you guys next week.